Road. Turn right onto Dover Road. Continue for 1.5 miles.
I didn't hear any condemnation of Iran from Mrs. Zaghari-Ratcliffe. Did that surprise you?
It didn't surprise me because she has got loved ones back in Iran. And you also saw her in the press conference yesterday, very reluctant to share details of terrible mistreatment that she did experience in Iran. We know about that because she, her psychological torture has been extensively documented by very experienced physicians.
Sonia Skeets, always enjoy speaking with you, Chief Executive of Freedom from Torture, thank you. Emails coming in already on this guy in Newcastle. I'm not sure gratitude is something a British citizen should have for expecting a government to rescue them when detained illegally in another country. Ian, picking up on the point, couldn't she have had the decency to thank the UK government for getting her home, and no condemnation for the people, the Iranians who put her in jail? Well, as we heard from the contributor there, remember she does still have family and loved ones in Iran, so that might have been rather risky for those other individuals. So we'll pick up on more of your opinions in just a moment. Also coming up after the news.
A court told the man accused of murdering Sir David Amess also researched a string of high-profile politicians, including the Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove. MLBC's Rachel Venables with the story.
And as you know, Putin's Russians have bombed a maternity hospital, a care home, and even shelters. Now, reportedly, Russian troops are shooting on protesters. That is, reportedly, Russian troops firing on protesters in the southern city in Ukraine of Kherson. More after the news. It is 7:15, LBC News headlines now, then Simon Conway.
Ukraine's president has again appealed for direct talks with Vladimir Putin to try to end the war in his country. A toddler has died after being attacked by a dog at her home in Merseyside, and the property investor Nick Candy is said to have increased his bid to buy Chelsea. LBC weather, dry with warm sunshine for many, a high of 18 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. On the trains, London Overground service is severely disrupted this morning. There's no trains running to and from New Cross Gate to both West Croydon and Crystal Palace. There's also no service between Surrey Quays and New Cross, and between Highbury and Islington and Dalston Junction. Also, minor delays on both TfL Rail and Greater Anglia services between Liverpool Street and Shenfield. On the Underground, there are minor delays on the Northern Line between Edgware and Camden. On the roads, it's very busy on the M11 northbound just after Junction 8 at Bishop Stortford. Early reports there's been an accident. There's queues for about 2 miles. And also in Finsbury Park, long delays on the Seven Sisters Road southbound, and that's because of the ongoing works.
This is LBC. There is a new way to sell your car. It's the Sell Your Car from Home way. The car dealers compete to give you the best price way. It's the you could get up to £1,000 more way. It's the your car gets picked up from home way. No way you say? Yes way. This is the new way to sell your car. This is the Sell your car at motorway.co.uk. For price and claim verification, visit motorway.co.uk.
Call Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973 LBC.
If you trade goods to or from the EU, the word customs is unlikely to provoke joy and laughter. And although Customs Pro may not change that, it should at least make things simpler and faster. With Customs Pro, you don't need multiple agents. It's an all-in-one online solution that can work hand-in-hand with your existing IT system. What used to take hours can now be done in minutes. Find out more at customspro.co.uk.
As millions held their breath, humanity takes its first steps on the moon.
In your lifetime, you've witnessed science fiction become reality. It's now possible for everyone to have the internet in their pocket.
Surgeons have successfully transplanted a human heart.
But when it comes to heart disease, at the British Heart Foundation, we're just getting started. More than half our funding comes from gifts and wills. You can use the power
In a quarter of a mile, keep right to continue towards Tons Lane, A355.
turn science fiction into reality again.
It's 2024, and the British Heart Foundation has today announced the Heart of the Future.
Search BHF Willpower to get a free gifts and wills guide and see how you can get a solicitor's help in writing or updating your will for free.
Forget the traffic and zoom
Keep right.
to the city centre. Travel from London to Leeds for £30 each way. It's amazing where an LNER train will take you like the best gigs in town. Dinners with Dad. Shopping in the Corn Exchange. Book direct at lner.co.uk or via the LNER app. 7,500 seats available at stated price, booked up to 14 days before travel. Subject to availability between Monday to Thursday. Off-peak services only. From planning your wedding day to moving into your new home, a tax-efficient stocks and shares ISA from John Lewis can help you prepare for all the big milestones to come. Little moments can build big futures. Go to johnlewisfinance.com to find out more. As with all investing, your capital is at risk. Tax treatment depends on individual circumstances and may change in the future. John Lewis Investment Services are provided by Nutmeg Saving and Investment Limited.
Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
With Motorway, sell your car quickly, easily and conveniently from home for free.
Coming up on 20 minutes after 7, Jason, you'll be the first caller concerning Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe, and while her front page, her picture graces the front pages.
In a quarter of a mile, at the roundabout, take the first exit onto the M4 slip road to London, Heathrow Airport.
A live court case, and indeed we're going to bring you a report on that. The Sun Kill Gove plot, that's as in Michael Gove, the Daily Mail, twisted MP killer, plotted attacks for years. This was what a court was told. Hope you've all heard that. This is what a court was told. They were also told that the MP killer had Gove as a target. A court heard. I hope we all heard that clearly. Some domestic story for the front page of the Daily Express. It's time to raise state pensions. Mr. Sunak, this is reflecting, of course, tension now. That statement, or effectively it's being deemed to be a budget, isn't it really? Tomorrow, and you've got full coverage, of course, of that here on LBC. Vladimir Putin, or aspects of him, is on the front page of a couple of the newspapers. The Daily Telegraph, revealing that he has a super yacht in Italy, which the authorities are urging is seized. I think I saw about a price tag of some £500 million that ship is worth. And the Guardian tells us of $17 billion of global assets linked to Russians with alleged ties to Putin. There is a picture of Roman Abramovich on the front page of that. I need to tell you, of course, he's always denied any close association with Vladimir Putin. The Eye has the story we just talked about. Russian troops turn on protesters. Similar theme for the Times. Putin threatens civilians to break Mariupol's spirit. Escape from Mariupol is the front page of the Metro. Excuse me, and the LBC website combines both stories, really. 50 Ukrainian orphans due to fly to UK street.
In a quarter of a mile, merge onto M4.
Paperwork blunder. The story we're going to look at later in the show. Right, let's get Jason, who's in Milbourne Port, I've read, to talk about Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe. Where does that put you if you're in Milbourne Port? Where's that near that I might have heard of? Good morning.
Near Sherborne.
Oh, right, you're in Dorset. Are you in Dorset or Somerset?
It's Dorset, or just on the border, yeah.
On the border, sir. Okay, what are you going to tell me about Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe?
She didn't come across as a sort of victim. She came across very politically orientated. Did you not think that?
I'm loath to ascribe any negative sentiment because the poor woman has just endured 6 years in jail. What I will say is there might have been a degree of more gratitude, possibly.
Okay. Do you think that she'll give the money from the Hollywood blockbuster and the book deal to a charity, or do you think she'll keep it?
I have no idea, and it's difficult to say. What do you? I would hope perhaps she'd do a split, some for a charity for refugees or those who are held in torture or whatever, and some for herself. What do you say?
I say she should give all the money back because she's, unfortunately, as a lot of people say, if you don't go somewhere, you don't get in trouble in the first place. So if she hadn't have gone to visit her family, she wouldn't have got in trouble in the first place and wouldn't put future people at risk.
I think you have every right to visit your family, don't you know, wherever they might be on the planet. It's a bit harsh to say because your folks are in Iran you can't. Do you not think that's a bit harsh because they're in Iran you can't go there, Jason?
No, I've got a parent friend whose family ran from Iran probably 45 years ago.
Right.
And she's never been back since because she knows as soon as she stepped off the plane, because of where her family were, what her family were, she'd immediately be arrested.
Right, okay. So lastly, what are your overview of that press conference yesterday afternoon?
It would have been nice for her to say thank you.
Thanks for that, Jason. Look after yourself. Emails, texts and tweets coming in on this. Wendy says Nazanin seems to show no gratitude to the British government for getting her out of Iran. It's what some people say. Does not condemn Iran for their actions. They're the ones in the wrong. Well, I remind you, of course, she does still have family in Iran, so that's what might be colouring her views there. Annie says maybe the British government had paid its debts on time rather than waiting more than 40 years. Its residents wouldn't be at risk of being taken hostage in other parts of the world. Do keep those reviews coming. All right, let's go to other matters on the story that I mentioned when we went through the front pages of the newspapers. And the suggestion that court was told that leading Conservative MP Michael Gove was targeted by a jihadist fanatic. Rachel Venables reports. Rachel.
Nothing less than an assassination for terrorist purposes. That, Nick, is how the prosecutor Tom Little QC opened up the trial yesterday of Ali Harbi Ali at the Old Bailey. The 26-year-old, as you know, accused of murdering veteran MP Sir David Amess at a constituency meeting in Belfast Church in Leigh-on-Sea last year. Now, the jury was told that after being self-radicalised a few years earlier, the Islamic State-inspired terrorist started planning an attack. And to do that, Nick, he focused on MPs, specifically those politicians who'd voted for airstrikes in Syria. We heard chilling details about how Ali allegedly researched politicians like Dominic Raab and Sir Keir Starmer. He allegedly decided against targeting the House of Commons after scoping it out and seeing the amount of police officers there who were armed. He even visited the surgery of Tory MP Mike Freer in Finchley and carried out 6 separate reconnaissance trips to the home of Levelling Up Secretary Michael Gove in West London. The court heard how notes were even found on Ali's phone that talked about plans involving Michael Gove, including posing as a journalist, but it said the best outcome would be bumping into him on a morning job. Now, Nick, we also heard in court yesterday harrowing details about the moment Sir David was killed. The prosecution saying Ali got an appointment there by claiming he was moving to the area. They claim he was relaxed and chatty before a noise or an alert went off on his phone. He said sorry, then pulled out a 12-inch carving knife. Father of 5, Sir David died after suffering 21 stab wounds to his face, torso, arm and thigh. Ali was then allegedly heard on the phone saying, "I've done it because of Syria," before being pinned down by 2 incredibly brave-sounding unarmed police officers who ran in with only batons and incapacitance spray. Now, the 26-year-old from Kentish Town in North London has denied preparing acts of terrorism and murder, and his trial is expected to last for 3 weeks.
Rachel Venables reporting. Let's go to the other main story on the front pages, which is events in Ukraine. Although first we'll go to the United States. President Joe Biden speaking last night.
Whenever he starts talking about something he thinks NATO, Ukraine, or the United States is about to do, it means he's getting ready to do it. Not a joke. They're also suggesting that Ukraine has biological and chemical weapons in Ukraine. That's a clear sign he's considering using both of those. He's already used chemical weapons in the past, and we should be careful what's about to come. He knows there'll be severe consequences because of the United NATO front, but the point is, it's real.
connected to Ukraine now. Tom Much is a freelance journalist joining us from Western Ukraine. What preparations, if any, are being put in place for Putin possibly deploying weapons of that sort, Tom? Good morning.
Hi, good morning. Thank you very much for having me on. Look, this is a very, very difficult scenario to plan for because these are not weapons that are easily defendable against. Now, a lot of people I know are wondering, well, why would people ever be really using weapons that could draw such international condemnation? But we've seen such a strong level of resistance from the cities that it seems that Vladimir Putin might think that because chemical weapons can kind of snuff defenders out of underground bunkers or snuff them out of their homes, that it's his only option if he wants to take cities like Kiev and Kharkiv.
And let's talk a little about these cities. We're nearly a month in now to this war. Do you, Tom, sense in any way the spirit is diminishing or it's tougher than ever of Ukrainians?
I'm glad to report it's the latter. So 2 days ago I was in Kharkiv, which is one of the cities that has withstood one of the most brutal bombardments of the war. You just walk around the city and the whole place is just blown to hell. I'm talking schools, universities, churches, apartment buildings everywhere. But you talk to people there and there's a real sense of resilience that they feel like the worst. They also say, look, we've stood here for so long, he's had a month to take it and he's not even been able to breach the city's perimeter. If we've held it on this long, we can be able to hold out for the long haul.
And the new tactic, lastly, Tom, and if you're not aware of this, just tell me, but the suggestion now, the Russian Defense Ministry is warning people in Mariupol that they could face so-called military tribunals. They'll be seized and face a court. Tom? I think we might have lost our line to Ukraine. Tom?
Hi there. Could you repeat the question?
Yes, try again, Tom. The suggestion from the Russian Defense Ministry in Mariupol that they will seize Ukrainians and put them before a military tribunal. Are you aware of that? And what more can you tell us?
Well, we don't know any more about what the Russians' plans for Mariupol are so far, but the early signs look very, very ominous. We've heard reports that some civilians have been shipped off into Russia without their documents, and they've been basically forced into camps. The Gulag reappearing in 2022. The Russians have also said that anyone who does not leave, any civilian who does not through a humanitarian corridor, will be considered an enemy combatant and liable to be either killed in the fighting, killed afterwards as a collaborator with what the Russians are calling the Ukrainian Nazi government.
Tom, look after yourself. Thank you so much. Journalist reporting from Western Ukraine. We'll take your views on that. We will, of course, be watching the situation throughout the course of the day and the events in Ukraine. Does it colour what you might recall of the so-called Partygate, which was addressed by Brexit Opportunities Minister Jacob Rees-Mogg during the party's spring conference on the weekend at Blackpool?
Partygate, all of that is shown up for the disproportionate fluff of politics that it was, rather than something of fundamental seriousness.
Nothing more than fluff, says Moggy. Is he right? 7:30, you're listening to Breakfast with me, Nick Ferrari, here on LBC. Time for the news, Simon Conway.
We're just hearing a man has been charged with the murder of a student in central London. 19-year-old Sabita Tanwani was found with serious injuries at her halls of residence in Clerkenwell on Saturday. Mayor Maroof, who's 22, is due to appear in court later. Joe Biden has issued one of his strongest warnings yet that Russia is considering using chemical weapons in Ukraine. The US president, who's due to meet NATO leaders in Brussels later this week, says Vladimir Putin's back is against the wall. A 17-month-old girl has died after being attacked by a dog at her home in St Helens. Police say the animal, which has now been destroyed, had only been with her family for a week before yesterday's attack. LBC weather, mostly dry with sunny spells. Scattered showers possible for the Midlands, Northern England, Southern Scotland and Northern Ireland later. Warm in the sunshine, a high of 18 degrees.
LBC. Say hello to leasing. Say hello to Auto Lease.
In 2 miles, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes. In a quarter of a mile, at junction 3, take the A312 exit to Harrow, Hayes. Exit at junction 3. In a quarter of a mile, at Cranford Parkway interchange, take the 4th exit onto the Parkway, A312. Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway.
So we absolutely nailed it. Not the entire time was spent in jail. Jivan, thank you. We will return to the subject coming up after the news headlines. The latest, I'm sure, on the Ukrainian situation.
Continue on the Parkway for 1 mile.
Or spring statement. Small Business Minister from the government, Paul Scully. 7:46 LBC News headlines. Simon Conway.
A man has been charged with the murder of Sabita Tanwani, who was found dead at her student accommodation in London. Joe Biden says Vladimir Putin's back is against the wall, warning he could be considering using chemical weapons in Ukraine. No survivors have been found after a plane with 132 people on board crashed in southern China. LBC weather, dry with warm sunshine for many, a high of 18 degrees.
LBC Travel, I'm Joanne Webb. There are delays of about an hour on the A13 westbound, all the way to the Canning Town flyover from Ferry Lane at Rainham. And that's because a car's broken down and one lane is closed. Very busy on the M11 northbound at Junction 8 at Bishop Stortford following an accident, but all the lanes are now back open. In Highgate, there are queues on the A1 Archway Road going southbound to the Woodman traffic lights, and that's because of the roadworks where only one lane is open. On the trains, well, these problems on London Overground do continue. No services to and from New Cross Gate, both West Croydon and Crystal Palace. Also no service Surrey Quays to New Cross, and between Highbury and Islington and Dalston Junction.
This is LBC.
It's the most wonderful time of the year.
With On the Beach, your holidays start at the airport thanks to our exclusive perks. Book a 4- or 5-star package and get free access to the airport lounge. That's free food and drinks, comfy seats, no stress. Holidays start sooner with On the Beach at Unprotected. See terms and conditions, outbound only, subject to availability.
Call Nick Ferrari now. 0345 6060 973. This is LBC.
A squeezing across the chest. A feeling of unease. That sense something's not right.
In a quarter of a mile, at Wagoners Roundabout, take the second exit and stay on the Parkway, A312.
999 and describe your symptoms. Your NHS is here for you. Tesco Club Card has the power to lower prices on Easter basket treats like Tony's Chocolate Orange Easter Egg and Cadbury Twirl Chocolate Egg from £3 to just £2. You can't stop the kids asking for chocolate at breakfast time though. Nothing's that powerful. Lower the cost of your shop with your Tesco Club Card or app. The power to lower prices. Majority of larger stores ends 22nd of March. Club Card are required while stocks last. We all know life is full of twists and turns, and sometimes plans just change. So when you travel by
Exit the roundabout onto the Parkway.
easy for you to change tickets, board and
Continue on A312 for 1.5 miles.
different date or time. You can do that and so much more from our app. Download it today to help with your travel plans. Avanti West Coast. Feel good travel. Advance tickets only. Admin fee applies for changes requested after 6 p.m. day before departure. Further conditions apply.
The Admiral and Mrs. Taylor set out on a lovely picnic in a hot air balloon. But things didn't go to plan.
Pesky seagulls, they ruined everything. I know. They not only wrecked my son's car with my roast chicken, but they also demolished Mum's chimney and her garden. But you saved the day with Admiral Multicover.
Mrs. Taylor insured her family cars and homes, all at different addresses, on a single multi-cover policy. Admiral Multicover, rewardingly simple.
At Fisher Investments UK, we often see retirees with the same questions about their investments and pensions. Here's one of the big ones. How much do I need to retire comfortably? If your portfolio is £250,000 or more, get the definitive guide to retirement income and ongoing insights. Visit fisherradiooffer.com to get your copy today. That's fisherradiooffer.com. Capital at risk and may involve the risk of loss. Fisher Investments Europe Limited, trading as Fisher Investments UK, is authorised and regulated by the UK Financial Conduct Authority.
Driving is not a game. If you tailgate the car in front, the closer you get, the less time you'll have to react. Don't be a space invader. Leave at least a 2-second gap. Search National Highways for more information.
Nick Ferrari at breakfast on LBC.
With Motorway, where dealers compete to give you the best price for your car.
9 minutes before 8, we'll come back to our conversation concerning Nazanin Zaghari-Ratcliffe and that money paid by the British government. But let's look at other matters. And another scandal for many that needs to be investigated is the so-called post office scandal, you will recall. This is when called Britain's biggest miscarriage of justice. This will be a group of sub-postmasters who were found guilty of various computer dealings and possibly even fraud, numbered scores of them having convictions which have subsequently been overturned. I understand the government is to announce action on that today. Here is Minister for London and Small Business Minister Paul Scully. Do you have more details on what we might hear concerning this later today, Minister? Good morning.
Good morning, Nick. Well, look, I've been making a full written statement. I'm due to do that later on today. But what
are you able to tell us now prior to that?
Well, what we're aiming to do over the next few weeks is to work with the representative group of the 555 original postmasters who brought the case, who brought this scandal and this miscarriage of justice to a head, and really blew open the case, which allowed other people to get compensated. They won their case, but their funders took a lot of the cash from that. We want to make, and so they haven't had full and fair compensation. We're in a now far better place that we can actually work out the scheme with them to make sure that they are compensated in the same way that anybody else is, so that they're not falling short despite blowing the case open in the first place.
The gravity of this cannot be overstated, can it, Minister? You'll be aware that there are reports that 4 people actually took their lives as a result of this scandal, Minister.
It's absolutely horrendous. I think you cannot fail to. It's not whether I'm a minister, an MP, just being a human being, looking at the terrible situation that's happened over 20 years, including, as you say, people who have committed suicide, other people have died just because it's been going on for so long. It's time that we put this, that we make this wrong.
In 300 yards, turn right onto Roslyn Avenue.
And fair compensation, whilst we work through the other people who have been wronged in this case as well. And with those 555, it also means that those who've been prosecuted but not necessarily convicted should also make sure that they get due compensation.